In this episode, I'm going to learn how to say episode, but we're going to be talking about funding for new construction. This show, Going Vertical, is all about new construction investing. So if you're a real estate investor and you're looking to scale up your business or go down a different line, and maybe you're tired of wholesaling, now you want to build a house or two, this is the show for you. So again, this episode, we're talking about funding. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashflow.com, and Lifeonaire.
What's going on, everybody? This is episode 3, I believe.
4.
3 or 4? Who knows? But we've talked about lot acquisition on the first one. The second one, we talked about being prepared. And this one, I don't know if there was a third one, but this one, we're talking about funding.
Funding.
So, yeah, like I said a second ago, this show is all about new construction. So we're assuming in this episode, we've already got the permits lined out. We're assuming that you're prepared. We're assuming that you already have a lot or are in the process. Like, when does funding come into play?
Well, so just like we talked about on the last few episodes and we'll continue to talk about, there's going to be a lot of overlap with these first few steps. Right up until you start construction, some of these steps can be interchangeable so long as you at least know where you're going.
So it's not so much a step 1, step 2, step 3. It's more
Not
like
necessarily.
a forward movement.
It can be exactly as we're laying it out, but some things could be interchangeable, such as you could get your funding set up before you ever even buy the lot. You could buy your lot with cash and then roll that into your financing later, but we'll talk about that in this episode. Point is, they may have the lot, they may not, but at the funding point, since we already talked about getting permits, we're assuming that going into this episode, knowing that since we're talking about funding, you could also reverse engineer this a little bit and play around with some of the steps.
So see, because that's interesting to me, because typically, again, coming from a fix flipper, you need all the money up front, or then you got to start looking for second liens and third liens and fourth liens, or not. Yeah, you know what I mean. Just for funding opportunities. But for this, you said that you could either already have the lot or you're looking to get the lot. So what that tells me is, like, because typically in real estate, we always preach never buy with your own money. Are you getting a first lien position to buy the lot, and then you're getting another loan? Like, how does that work? You see where I'm going with that?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a couple ways you can do it. I mean, if you do have, depending on how much the lot costs, and if you have that cash, I mean, I've done it where I buy the land myself with my own money, okay, and then I go get a construction loan, or I get PML for the construction side of it.
PML?
Private money lending.
Oh.
So that's, I mean, so like for my first few projects, new construction projects, that's what I did. I went out, I bought like 4 to 5 acres of land. They're all different locations. I bought it with my own money. So I know that we preach and say, hey, other people's money, which is great, but sometimes, so what I have found that hard money lenders or maybe a local bank, they may not lend you the money for the land if you don't have a portfolio already. If you're just starting out and if you don't have the just the portfolio, the experience. So at that time, I didn't have that experience. So what did I do? I'm like, well, I'm gonna do this anyway. And I went out and I bought it with my own money. I bought the land. And that gave me, as Chris said, I guess the equity, or I could utilize the amount, what the land costs, what the value is, to go get a loan, whether it's with a hard money lender or whether a local bank. So
on the hard money lending, because you said a couple times, like, I know we were talking about like Kelly Smith, Easy Street Capital.
We want to bring her on soon, and
right
after this episode, though, obviously.
She's not here. I was gonna say,
like, we cover these bases.
Hi, Kelly.
But other than her, and other than you talking about her doing hard money, I've never really heard of hard money loans being used for new construction.
So let me jump in.
Please.
So there's a lot of different ways to get funded, which we'll cover today. But for the broad scope here, the broad strokes, there's yeah, you can pay cash, you can get a bank loan. Those are going to be your most common. Hard money loans, there's not many of them that will loan you money for raw land. They will, like even us, for instance, we don't really classify ourselves as a lender, but we do lend some money. I would not be cheap on land, and the only couple of people we have done, it's really expensive, it's really short term, and you better have construction coming quickly. But with that being said, we can talk, we'll get into this later, but if you don't have the option to buy the land in cash, then maybe you need to go lock it up under contract with a really nice option period or length of time, then go to a hard money lender and say, would you do this? Or a private money lender or a bank, if you're bankable, which we'll get into again later, which is something that with tons of money at my disposal, I found out very early on back in the day that, well, crap, I'm not really bankable. I've never reported things the right way. But we'll get into all that. So there's a lot of different ways to get into this. And obviously, depending on the type of land you're trying to buy, I buy really cost-effective land. So it makes sense for us to buy it in cash most of the time and then pledge that to the lending source, private money, hard money, or banks.
What do you mean by pledge? You mean like
Well,
hey,
you
this
paid
is,
cash.
This is an asset-based type loan where it's like, look, you're loaning me this, and yes, and the recourse is, well, you take the loan.
It's like a private money loan against an asset. They're getting a first lien against that
Right.
asset. That's their security. Every single bank out there that I've talked to, unless things have changed, have all wanted me to skin in at the very least 20% of the project. However, they calculate that's up to that bank, whether it's on construction costs or whether it's on overall value, who cares? It's 20% of whatever they want to call it. But they'll allow your land to cover as much of that, if not more, than the 20% would require. So hopefully if you're buying at a discount, they'll give you more value on the land, and that comes back to buying right. But I certainly wouldn't tell them what you paid for it.
Okay, so that's the question I was gonna ask is like, so if you're
They may
buying,
ask, but don't tell them.
but like, yeah, so if you have land that you bought for $1 and it's worth $1 million, you're never gonna tell the lending
Your best to
institution
go get an appraisal and show them the appraisal.
the appraisal
Be like,
value.
this is what the land is worth. What'd you pay? Or, I really can't remember. They may not believe you, but the point is, show them the appraisal, negotiate with them.
Right.
If they know what you paid, then it's going to be real similar to hard money loans in the sense that we're going to let you do 90% of your contract amount.
Right.
Right.
So
And that's
so
gonna
like
force you to skin in more.
institutional money, like the bank money, you're saying they typically, at least up until your recollection, they want at least 20% of your skin in the game, and that could be whether through money or through the land itself that's already been acquired.
Yeah, the couple of loans we
Correct.
did through a bank, it was a minimum of 20%.
Mm-hmm.
And they hated the fact that we were the owner and the builder, so we had to jump through a lot more hoops, and that's why I don't really like them that much. It's actually easier to get a loan when you use a GC and when you have separate parties. But again, we'll come back to that later or address that later.
Right.
So,
Now, as far as like the banks, is the pretty much, hey, if you're talking to a bank, it doesn't matter if it's local, if it's Chase, if it's Bank of America. Are we only talking about local? Because like
I like going to small local banks. They're more open to different ways of how they underwrite things and how and what they put their money on.
Mhm.
I've had harder times with like Bank of America or Wells Fargo. They've said no to me.
Mhm.
I keep trying though.
the general
But
consensus is small banks are better, but
right.
if you have a good relationship and a huge accounts
It's about the
receivable
relationship.
bankroll with somebody, go talk to them.
now, what about rates? And we haven't really talked about hard money, but what is like the typical interest rate? Is it and is there origination fees? Is there application fees? Like, and I know y'all aren't representing the bank, so it's not like I'm going to hold any number to you. But what's typical like rate on that, on the money?
With my local bank, I'll get anywhere between 6 and 8, which is
Okay.
really good.
Yeah.
As I said, I buy my land ahead of time, so I already have a certain amount of money invested. So at this point, they haven't really charged me for anything
Mm-hmm.
so far. Now, back to the hard money lender, the comment about every time I've used a hard money lender, they always go and they do a they'll go not a survey, but what's it called? They'll go and appraise it.
Right.
Okay, so they'll tell me, okay, you paid this much, we appraise it at this much. This is how much you're actually like, I guess, as a collateral for this, and then they've given me the loan. Hard money lenders, they're like 9.5%, 10%. I haven't paid more than that, but they've killed me with points.
Right.
4 points. The last hard money lender.
And I would say even the 9.5%, 10%, that's probably based off of a relationship as well.
Yes.
Because there's times I hear, and I won't name drop people, but like people I hear like, yeah, the going rate's like 9, 10% on our money, and then you talk to somebody new, it's like, where are you getting that? They quoted me 14
let's
and
just say
27.
Let's just say anywhere from 8 to 10.5 is relationship based. You've done deals, you can prove it. 12 to 14 is your common for
retail.
New guys, unproven or an unproven, system. Like I said, I mean, we've loaned money before on new construction at 100% of all costs, everything. I was 14 and 3. Mm-hmm. That may not be, and plus other fees that I'm paying. But
and that's a good,
go somewhere else.
And that's a good side point right there or side nugget, or it's not a gold nugget, but we've talked about before is if the numbers make sense, who cares how expensive the money is? Mm-hmm. Who cares how expensive the deal is? Who cares that that Joe Smith over here is about to make a $2 million assignment fee? If the numbers make sense, do the deal.
Yep.
So
because leverage creates more opportunities if you're willing to, go that route. Like you could, instead of paying everything in cash or doing a deal one certain way, go leverage it. Who cares about the money? Because then you might be able to do 2 deals now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thinking.
Speaking of that, like, because I know we're having several conversations here. We're having the I hire a GC. I am the GC. I am new. I am experienced. Let's walk down all those scenarios where I'm brand new, but I'm not a GC. I go to my local bank. I have a couple $100,000 in there. I have $1 in there. Let's play out those scenarios.
Yeah, let's walk through that. Let's give some actionable steps on something, but we know we're going to have offshoots. That's kind of the point, is that funding is very broad. So let's follow that. Go. I'll let her go first, and she's hiring a GC.
It's like, go. It's like, yeah. Jesse,
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm saying
what question am I
Here's
answering?
17 questions. Go.
Okay.
What actionable steps would you give everybody out there watching who's never done it, who wants to go? At least they've got their lot, they're prepared, they've at least got the permits in place, ready to go or about to be, but they're like, oh crap, I need to get funded for this. Or maybe they haven't got the permits, but the funding is going to be, they don't want to go get the permits till they're funded. So in your scenario, what advice going down your path?
Well, I would say you have to be shopping in every angle, talking to your local banks. That's one step. Also shopping around to see what hard money lender out there would fund to you. That right there is going to be a huge obstacle, because even I went through that. It took me months to find a good hard money lender, not just a good hard money lender, but a hard money lender that would actually lend to me for it, right? So like I said, I started with getting my own land, so I had leverage, right? So I have, so I can use it as collateral for a loan with either a hard money lender or a local bank. Okay, so shopping around, checking out. If I really suggest local banks, go check them out. They have the best rate. They're more open to the idea. Okay, then the next step would be at least call around national hard money lenders, and also look for your local state hard money lenders that know the areas that you're buying land at, and that they know what's really going on in that market.
So what are some good questions? Sorry to interrupt you, but I just had a quick thought, because you're saying, go find these people. What are some good interview questions? Because one thing I think new investors or even experienced investors fail to realize is, yes, if I'm trying to do business with you, I'm trying to impress you to do business with me. But at the same time, I need to be interviewing as well.
First question, do you loan on new construction to private, non-commercial builders? If the answer is yes, can you transfer me to that person?
Right.
First, if they say no, say, well, do you have a commercial lending department? If you really want to find out, maybe the person who answers the phone doesn't know. because in some banks, commercial lending is different than new construction. They'll handle that through a regular account rep or whatever you call them. So first question right out of the gate is, do you lend? You know, if the answer is no, hang up, call the next one that does.
Right.
Then start talking about, you know, their terms. But I wouldn't jump right into rate with them. I would just, you know, because that almost is more offensive to them, and maybe that's the wrong word, than it is, you know, hey, well, what's your normal process? What do you like us to do? They're probably going to say, fill out this questionnaire first, or let's look at you. But again, you could just say, well, before we go down that road, what are your processes? Do you like us to have the land first? Do you loan on the land? Start, just have questions written out that, you know, like we go back to, I always say take notes, because in the beginning, that's going to be your Bible. You know, always go back to your notes. Have a list of questions. You know, do you lend? What's your process? You know.
So what are those questions? I know you're about to random them off, but like, what are those questions you have? And then we'll come back. So don't let us go too much of a tangent. Oh yeah, by the way, Roll Tide. She has no clue, but you know. Just since you brought that up, and let's tangent first. So keep that locked in your brain. Your thoughts. What are those questions you would ask on the phone? I mean, I do love the first question. Do you even loan on this? No? Cool. Thanks. Bye. Have a great day. That way, you're not wasting your time. You're not wasting their time.
I just start right off and ask them if they lend, and then get transferred to that person. Then say, you know, I've never dealt with y'all's bank before. Do you require me to have an account? Do you not? Do you prefer it? You know, could you walk me through some of your steps and help me build a relationship with you? Just kind of butter them up a little bit. You don't just have to come in hardcore. What are your rates? And
right, but what are those interview questions that you were just referring to? You said, because you just said have a couple questions lined out.
Right. So start out with that. You know, what are your processes and how do you like things done? He'll fire stuff off at you, and then you can come back with, if depending on what he says, you're answering at that point. But your questions can be, do you prefer us to have the land already purchased? And if so, you know, can we pledge that back against the loan? Maybe get some credit for it. You know, if I bought it really cheap 5 years ago, but it's worth 20 grand and I'm only looking for a $100,000 loan, do you care about that? You can, I mean, I know I said earlier, hide the cost, but you can ask them these questions.
Right.
What if I have a piece of land that's worth 40 grand, but I have it under contract for 20? Would you give me the 20% credit for the skin based on the value? Do I need to provide the appraisal? Do you provide that? Like, could you just walk me through your process and how I can become a good borrower from you? And then just kind of roll with it from there. Write down the questions that he asks you. So then if you have to call the next bank, you can ask them those questions. Then you can start comparing notes and who do you think is going to be more favorable.
That's a huge tip right there. On, you know, just make a mental note or even record the call or something.
Yeah,
so the question they ask you, you ask the next lender, then you look
smart.
You look real smart.
Yeah.
How early in the process are you having these conversations? Is this like, man, I just saw it going vertical today. I really want to get a new construction a year and a half from now. I need to start picking up the phone and talking to these people.
Hopefully you're doing all this before you ever start.
Right. That's
or at least
saying.
simultaneously while we've discussed all these other steps in the other shows. That's why I say they're interchangeable. Hopefully you're doing all of it simultaneously or well before, and you're not waiting until you have the permit in hand to look for funding. But hey, I've done that. So all of the above I've at least done in some capacity.
And did you remember what we were talking about?
Of course.
Let's get back to that, because I don't.
No. What? All right. So you're calling hard money lenders. You're asking them these questions. And one of the things that you have to, if you are a flipper, if you flip homes already, talk about that. Say, hey, I've been flipping homes for however many amount of years. I've done this many flips. I want to get into the new construction. And then start asking those questions, right? Let them know that you have some, you're not new to real estate.
Would it be beneficial to like either with a hard money lender or institutional lender, a bank, would it be if like, hey, in 6 months, I know I'm probably gonna be going to this route. I probably should go ahead and open up a bank and start doing some of my business through their bank just so they know that I'm a real person?
And start a relationship.
I'm sure that would help.
A lot of people ask, well, how do I start a relationship with a bank? Easy. Open up an account. Start going there. Show them your portfolio. Show them, let them know.
Note, and I'm interrupting on purpose. It comes back to interviewing. Find the bank you want to do business with first, or at least have a good idea that's the bank before you go moving your accounts over there. And my wife, who apparently is watching, She'll tell you we've made 2 mistakes just in the last few years, moving all our accounts over to one bank and then another, only to find out we really fucking hate them. So, and they're not doing crap for us that the other bank we moved away from did, even though they said one thing. So do the research first, then move the accounts over.
And one thing I know used to work 10, 15, 20 years ago. I don't know if it still works because I don't do this. When you have a deposit, don't do the mobile deposit. Don't do the drive-through deposit. Walk into the bank and deposit in person. Do you think, and the logic behind it 15, 20 years ago is having that relationship, having that people so they know who you are. Fast forward to 2019, is that still worth a thing?
Well, with a local bank, that's important. With a Harmony lender, I don't really think so. I mean, that they're a service. What they do is for a service.
Right.
The numbers either make sense for them or they don't.
But at a bank though, when you've got Sally Sue who's been working there 22 years and still making $30,000-$50,000. Oh, it's Chris.
You know, that's
I
great. But
like
there's one bank that we do some random business with here and there. The guy that would otherwise loan us money is 40, 50 miles away at a different branch than from the local branch we would do our deposits at, so I could give a crap.
So
pick and choose, and if you want to drive out there one day and say hi to him.
But you see the point I'm making, 10, 20 years ago.
I think all that still applies if the ducks are in a row.
Okay, so it's all.
If the guy's there at the bank, come in and make friends with everybody.
Real quick before we go to break, I do want to hit a question to Ed Chambers. Hey, Ed, thank you so much for watching. Can you explain points? I know in the real estate investor world that's pretty basic, but what are points?
And what are we getting charged, or what is a point?
A point is typically in the origination.
Right. I'm saying, are you asking us to explain what a point is?
Yes.
Because we need to go back to some basics if we're talking what is a point. But what are we getting charged in points?
No, just what is a point?
Okay, just making sure. A point is I'm trying to think how a point is just a percentage point of the loan amount.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're going to be charged, and every bank's going to have a different
Right.
way they do that.
But in the context of the earlier conversation, typically with a loan, you'll have an interest rate, and then you'll have an origination point. But in typical conversation, it's just called what are the points, and that's usually for slang for origination points. And a point would be a percentage of the overall loan that you're used for origination. I.e., $100,000 loan. If it's a 10 and 2, that means you're having to pay 10% interest annual, but you're having to pay 2 points up front, which is $2,000.
So we can go really far into the points game and talk about, if you really want to get, you could get into this with Grant on his show too. Go research what the indexes are and what the LIBOR is, and then go in and tell them, well, if you're charging me 8.5 and the LIBOR is this, you're at least probably making 2 points on the freaking rate. Right. You could act really smart and tread down some waters you may not otherwise know, but the bank's going to make their money in lots of different ways. But the origination point is pretty standard across the board. They're going to get that. Now, whether they charge you additional points like hard money, every bank is going to assess your risk differently. So be prepared for multiple points. And if the bank, because they're the most affordable, only hits you with one, cool.
But standard, though, is you've got an interest rate and you've got points. And the points are just your
profit for them for their risk.
Yeah, and then you have sometimes you have application fees.
With my local banks, because I've had the land acquired, they haven't charged me points. But with Harmony Lender, they always have charged.
I've been hit with them every time, at least one minimum. So differences.
Well, anyway, we're gonna go a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna keep on going down this tangent-infested conversation of lending, which is the purpose of, because there are so many offshoots that we can go down. Before we do go to break, I do want to give a quick freebie plug, whatever. We just got our new wristbands in. We give these away at our events. Our next event is May 14th here in DFW. It's one of those events that people fly in from all the country to come to. So if you come to the event, you'll get one of these. If you are not able to come to the event, shoot me an email, Ryan@Propelio, and I'll mail you some. Just send me your address, and I'll send you the mail. They're pretty fun. One says, remember why you started, and one says, failure is not an option. I can, I will. But if you're local, I'm not mailing it to you. Just come to the event. So anyways, Tommy, take us a break. When we come back, we'll get more into this conversation of lending for new construction. The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's get further into this conversation.
There you go. We just told Chris that he was doing that like 2 seconds before. Way to go, sir.
Do my best, bro.
So we were answering the question about points, and that was kind of like a random offshoot. But, you know, this conversation of lending for new construction, we're talking about hard money, we're talking about institutional, local banks, and we were talking about those pre-interview questions. Like, what are some of the hazards? What are some of the pitfalls? What are things that we, as an investor, we need to be aware of? Because there's always ways that, I don't want to use the words take advantage, but they're just things you need to be aware of. And what are those things?
One important question is, how do you do your draws? Like, what's your process on the draw? What do you need from us, from me, every time I need that draw? Mm-hmm. How many days in advance so I can get it on this day, right?
Write that down.
That's huge. You really got to know what that answer is. If they skip around on you, if they kind of don't want to answer that question, ask it again. You know,
what's your draw schedule, or what's the process, or all of it?
Both. Yeah. What is, you know,
the draw schedule is based on what's done and when, but she's saying how far in advance do you need to notice,
right? Let's say I turn in my document today of, hey, this is everything we did, these are my invoices, I turn it in for my draw. How long is their process? You know, they receive it today. Are they going to wait 2 days to send a guy out there to send the inspector? And then the inspector turns in the pictures and everything to the actual lender, and then they release the funds. So you got to know how many days that is. How long does it take them to do all of that?
And then from your perspective of being that you hire out a GC, right, you just need to know what that draw schedule is, because if your payables are like a week after, if you have like hey, if you give me your invoice, I have up to a week to pay you. But from a GC standpoint, your guys want to get paid when they're done. So that's kind of an interesting.
In our world, there's always a float.
And what do you mean by float?
You have to float the accounts receivable.
Exactly.
No matter what, unless you want your guys to quit.
Right.
So in our world, like the guy she hires, we have to have a bankroll to be in business. Mm-hmm. So we still treat our construction side of our company separate from the other, or otherwise at least make sure each project is somewhat funded with a budget and an accounts receivable payroll. Because
just to really, make this painfully obvious, if foundation is done and it costs $10, you go to your lending institution and say, hey, draw a schedule, I need my $10 for the foundation side. Whatever that process is, maybe it's 3 days, maybe it's 5 days, maybe it's a week and a half, I don't know. But if you're this person in the middle, you most likely already have to pay it.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Absolutely.
And
then you're just hoping that you get that money.
So I want to answer the same question she did. Is that's the pitfalls that everyone should look for? Maybe not a pitfall, but just a warning. Is that be prepared to put skin in the game in new construction. There are very few lenders that will do 100% of everything. So decide before you get into this racket if you can afford it.
Right.
Because in most cases, most of all the legitimate hard money will, and I say legitimate hard money because there's expensive hard money like the loans we've done, but it's there for a reason. I don't want to be called by everybody. So they require skin in the game. Banks definitely require skin. So decide what you can afford before you start going into that. Actionable steps would be, coming back to that because I want to kind of go down that path, is call everybody, find out what all their rates are, who's easy. The banks may be the best rate and the best this, that, and the other, but they want 20%. Your lot only qualifies for 12 to 15, leaving you with 5 in. But certain hard money lenders want 10% of the cost of the project. That 10% may be less than the 5% over here. You just need to map them all out and decide what you can afford. If you can't, you might be looking at a second loan through private money or friends and family.
I'm glad we're going into this because there's a lot of times in real estate specifically, we always say, you could do real estate for free. You don't need any money. You could do this all for free. But even on a situation, other people's money, it's like, yes, in theory, you are using other people's money to fund your project, but you still need your own wallet to for that float that you're talking about. And that can be for flipping and for new construction.
So we have private money lenders and we have money partners. The difference being, my money partners, they have a lot more bandwidth than my private money lenders, but their skin is huge. So I've gotten to the point the relationships with them are great. And in some cases, I'll use them even more because I might give up 50% of my profits to my now business partner actually, but I can scale beyond my wildest imagination. Private money lenders, they're great, 10%, 1 point. I love new construction. But they're going to underwrite it themselves and take a few days, and they're going to go inspect their draws. If you're prepared for that, because a lot of people, because I was that person, are just all about the rate, right? All about the price. And I was that way for a little while too. And as long as you're prepared for that and that's your plan, so be it. At some point though, I think you'll realize again, price is actually pretty negligible if you can scale. So for us, again, money partners, and particular, somebody that we actually made a business partner recently, allow us the ability to scale unfathomably. But there are also the need for private money lenders and slower deals or yada, yada, yada. So getting off topic there, but they're all different pieces of the pie.
It may be off
Maybe
topic.
That's the only way you can do it first. Maybe you got to bring on an equity partner that wants half your freaking cut. But you know what? If you're new and you've only done, new means anything under 2 or 3 deals, because you may have just gotten fucking lucky on your first deal. And that doesn't mean you're good yet. Just because you did one deal in a hot market in Dallas and you made a bunch of money does not mean you're good yet.
Right.
Sorry.
But anyway, side tangents, any kind of nuggets are nuggets. Even like what you just said about giving up half the deal goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If the numbers work, the numbers work. Like Mitch Steven, and he was in here like a year and a half ago, and one of the things he talked about was when he had that mindset of I want the entire pie. He had a big pie, but when he opened up and gave half the pie away to his employees, to his staff, to his partners, all of a sudden that pie got a whole lot bigger than it would have been just solo. So it's a huge relevant nugget right there.
Yeah, I think we, when it comes to doing something like new construction, and if you've never done it before,
Kelly's here.
I think you gotta just focus on, you know what? I have the knowledge. Maybe you have money, okay? Or maybe you have money. I have money too, but you want to learn this, right? So I'll guide you through it. I'll consult you through it. And it'll probably end up at 50-50. There's nothing wrong with that. At least you're going to learn so much through the process that I think it's admirable of people that are open to that. Those that are closed-minded to it, you can go and I would advise go get a real good builder that will do it for you. That knows, that they have a process, a portfolio of doing new builds. Don't just get any general contractor. That's my 2 cents.
You want to see how long we can make Chris keep his hand up?
Yeah, let's see how long.
Yes, sir.
No, I was reading the comments while y'all were talking, not to interrupt, and I think there's 2 good points about relationships. Lenders don't want to make things more difficult. They want you to succeed. That's true, and I think banks the same way. But I want to tag on to the fact private or hard money lenders are known to be expensive, right? Okay, they're probably more inclined to wanting you to succeed than a bank. A bank, I don't really think wants you to lose. But I also personally just don't feel they really give a shit if you also succeed.
They don't.
They just want their money, and if you can't pay them, they want you to either pay them off or they'll take the property, whatever. For them, it's just systems. So I do think there's a huge benefit in the hard money lending space with getting their help and advice on evaluating a deal. The ones that actually lend on new construction have done it, or they're at least educated enough to maybe let you know, that looks like a pretty shitty deal, don't do that.
Right.
And in that case, maybe then you want to come to somebody else who's in the trenches like us and say, they won't do this because they say it's risky. What do you think? We might say, yeah, it's risky, but I'll split it with you.
Yeah.
Right.
So blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I appreciate bringing that up because, again, like when you've got Nancy at the bank, she doesn't care if you succeed. I mean, she may care that you personally, if you built that relationship, but ultimately, no matter what, if she probably still has 100 REOs on the books, 101 or 102 is not going to make a difference in her day the next day. Whereas if you're working with somebody like a Kelly,
especially because you skinned in 20% already anyway.
But even then, she doesn't care because she doesn't own the bank.
Yep.
But then you got somebody like Kelly who, like, as a hard money lender, like when she's working with you, if you start to fail, you call her up and be like, look, I need help. I don't, because she doesn't want a lot. She doesn't want the property. She doesn't want to have to go through that. She just wants to get paid on the points and on the.
No different than us with our backers.
Yeah.
If we get stuck, they may be still making a little monthly interest, but they're not making. Our investors aren't making their money back quick enough. It's all about turning the dollars.
The point, though, the ultimate point is, I think, even though a hard money lender may be more expensive, they're probably going to be way more accessible to help you through the process.
Well,
yes, ma'am.
You have to be transparent with your lender. Hard money, PML, it doesn't matter. You have to be very transparent. If you are at a stop or you're having a hurdle, the best advice I can give you is contact your lender, let them know what your issue is, and actually, let them know, hey, I'm telling you this because I need you to know. I need to be transparent.
That's
that
an awesome
right
piece of
there
advice.
will give you more respect from that lender.
But they may know somebody to help fix the problem too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Debbie actually just put a good point that I've never really thought about, because I have thought about in terms of events itself, but sponsoring your events banks is another way to cultivate a relationship with them. Like, I didn't even know banks had events, but I know hard money lenders have events all the time. But that's a huge thing. So like if you're wanting to do new construction, I know Easy Street, Kelly's getting a lot of shout outs today. They do a lot of events. Like, hey, I want to sponsor your event. What do you do? Well, I do new construction. What are you trying to do? I just want to have a better relationship with you. That she's going to get a kick out of that. That's a very good point. Let's because we were talking about you're going to learn so much. Well, let's learn so much today. What is the process? Like, let's walk down a hard money loan for new construction. Like, I have a lot or I don't have a lot. Let's go both of those. Like, I already have a lot. What do I do next?
I still want to get a hard money lender or two on here to go in depth into
They're
that.
not here today, but we can do that when they're here.
That's fine.
I would just, they all have their own different terms and documentation that they do. So they're more than likely going to say, hey, go ahead and fill all these papers out. And then they're going to review how you look on paper, what your project looks like. And then they're going to tell you, yes, we will, or no, we won't. Okay.
Now, but what's the difference between that and like a flip? Because I know when you're doing a flip, typically now there's a lot of the online forms, and it's just like, what's your ARV? What's your this? What's your that? What's your this? Yes or no?
Well, they're going to...
On here, are you like, hey, here's my building packet. Here's my design work. Here's my approval from the city. Again, you're talking about being transparent. It's just like, here's everything.
Yeah.
And then what's the review process? How long does that take?
Depends on how
It
good
depends
the
on
lender is
them.
and how equipped they are to.
Yeah, I've given permits. I've given information of the builder, of the actual GC that's going to do the work. I also give the draw schedule, okay, and insurance. So I give them all of that, and then I pretty much wait on them.
Yeah.
That's sometimes quick, and sometimes it could be,
Is that the same?
Yeah, dealing with hard money specifically, I'll tag on to what she's saying. Yes. We might get verbal commitments pretty quick, like, hey, look, here's what we got, here's this, here's that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yes, send over. They might just want to see that you've got everything contracted and in place. They may want a few more pieces of documentation before they give you the first draw. But on that note, I will say that Brittany and I like to dictate our own draw schedule, so we'll sometimes ask for that in their underwriting process. Like, you might only want to do 4 draws at this, I might say, no, here's how I want it. I want to draw at concrete. I want to draw here, and I want it as soon as these items are completed in this way. But I can also say I've done this a handful of times, so I know what means more to me than you saying you dictating the draw schedule. I don't know that a rookie might have that luxury, but that's something we usually ask for. So like, I won't beat you up on your price or your points, but here's what I want.
So on that note, what is more important to you guys? Like the terms as far as like the interest rates and the points, or the draw schedule?
If the points make sense, I just need the money quickly, because in our world, we're floating it.
Right.
And I'm paying those guys every Friday, if not right when it's done. So as soon as I turn in that draw schedule, 3 days to a week or whatever it is, I want that money quick.
Let me ask you a different way. Would you be willing to pay more for your money if the draw schedule was more sexy?
Depends on how much more.
It depends on,
Because that comes back to your bankroll.
right, it depends on the project. I mean,
Yeah, too.
if, for instance, if I'm not JVing with anybody, if it's just me, my money, and the bank's money or the hard money lender money, and they want to charge me, 12% interest, and my numbers make sense, I'll go ahead and do it, because I'm not sharing my profit with anybody. Now it depends on if you are doing a JV. You got to really look more at how much you're really paying out for interest and points, because if that timeline, if you're thinking 5-6 months and then getting on the market 7-8 months, and for some reason that just messes up and you're a 9-10 month 12 months, that's all that interest is eating your profit. So you just have to really look at and plan out on your timeline and have that in the back of your mind. Okay, if for some reason this goes south, what's my gauge? How much cushion do I have, right? For, you know what I mean by that? The cushion of what's my gap where my profit.
Assume I don't.
Okay.
Look at this. This is a face of not knowing anything.
So let me jump in with that then. So the cushion comes back to kind of when I think we might have talked about it in one of those other episodes, maybe getting prepared, whatever. I mentioned that I'm a punt buyer, but there's been a few guys that have called up trying to be clever. Oh man, I just need to get out of this.
What's a punt buyer?
I'm getting there.
I've never heard of that.
Well, I make it up because like if you have
You
to
can
punt,
ask
right?
questions
I'm
too.
not a huge football fan, but if you have to punt because you're too far
Kick it
away,
down the line.
so I'm a punt buyer. Like if you're up against the wall, you're running out of cushion. Yeah, call me, but I'm gonna look at the numbers, and you're not gonna make a profit. I'll get you out.
Yeah, we talked about that.
So my point there is knowing
yeah.
your cushion. Maybe that also comes back to being prepared, is knowing guys like me or other people in the new construction space, or hell, just other investors alone.
I get it. If somebody else is wanting to punt, he's
a
willing
buyer.
to receive it. Not he's the punt buyer. He's a
However you wanna
buyer
term it,
of the punt.
Yeah, whatever. I mean,
Sorry.
I'm making that up as I go, but I'm trying to think of a good example that, don't call somebody up when you're running out of cushion and try to get your fucking retail value. It's not gonna work. It's not going to work out.
Yeah.
So I'm losing my whole train of thought with the other
No,
point I
you're
was gonna
right on
make,
track.
but yeah, you have to know your cushion. So be prepared to go into that. If your construction project should take 4 to 6 months and you're quickly running out of time, you need to call your lender.
And
you need to call people. You need to start getting prepared to go south.
On that, like I don't know if it was Propelio TV or if it was on another show or a Gary Vee thing, but it probably was on here just because we have so much quality content. But it was like, at the end of the day, price fixes everything.
Mm-hmm.
It just does. So if you have to punt it out, the price will fix it. If you need money, the price fixes it. All those things. We're going to segue to another break. When we come back, if there's any questions, we're going to get to them. So if you have questions for these guys about new construction, about specifically about the lending part of new construction, obviously these guys are not lenders. They're not a bank. They're not. I mean, well, as I said, I'm like, well,
maybe.
Anyway. But you're not
we're not
actively
banks.
promoting
No,
that.
I'm not Easy Street.
You're not selling.
I'm not Black Label.
You're
no.
not selling your lending services. That's what I'm trying to say.
No.
So
Mine's
this
from
side,
an
the question,
investing standpoint.
yeah, this side of the questions over here, or the answers given, would be more from this side point of this is how it really is versus, hey, here's my agenda to give you that information.
Yeah.
That's the point I was trying to make. Also, if you want a wristband, we got these cool little wristbands. Shoot me an email, ryan@propelio.com. Send me your address, and I'll mail it to you. Come to the May 14th event. You'll get one for free.
If you're not at the event that...
What?
Oh, nothing. No. I was bleeping myself, you know?
Oh, yeah. Anyway, we got a lot of stuff. So anyway, we'll be right back. The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
Welcome back, guys. We're talking about funding your new construction. So we're gonna keep going at it. So, Ryan, what other questions do you have for us?
Well, there's tons of questions that you can have. It's just a matter of being creative enough. I do want to point out that Cashflow Chris out of Arizona, he has a good question for the show as a whole. He was asking, what type of properties are y'all building? Entry level, mid, luxury? I would like to knock that out. Just for the context of the show.
I would say for me, more mid, and kind of like in between entry level and mid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just broad term it as blue collar. That's everything from investor grade, entry level, because entry level's up for a first time home buyer is a little different than all in that blue collar category, sub 250.
Right. Well, cool. Going back to the lending side of things, what are some like, because I know we talked about the caveats of what to look for, and the first thing that both y'all latched onto was the draw schedule and the draw process. Other than that, what is the biggest things that people need to be thinking about?
For me, I answered my question on that. That's like the main thing for me. Like how's the draws? How do they internally work their draws? That's huge for me, right? Because I need to ensure that one, I have the money that's gonna keep me flowing to pay the workers,
right.
So they don't get upset, so they don't stop, right? The work, because I want that to keep going.
So it sounds like.
So, go ahead.
No.
You made me lose my train of thought. So that's like huge for me.
Right.
Everything else, from you getting the documentation to them, that's very self-explanatory. When it comes to a hard money lender, they're gonna give you all those documents, and you just have to fill it out.
It's just check boxes.
Right? And you really knowing your budget for that specific phase of the build is really important. But again, that goes with your draw schedule. So it's already on my end. It's already I have phase 1, phase 2, everything written out on how much we expect it to be, and if it goes over a little bit or under a little bit, then great, but I still have those funds that I need to know that I'm going to be paying out. So.
And for you, sir?
It's similar. The draw schedule can make or break your budget, but it comes back to kind of the beginning of the process, is talking to all your lenders and finding out who's got the best price for what you're looking for, because that's going to, again, set up your overall budget. If skinning in too much to the bank to get their lower price is not actually as financially good for you as taking a higher interest loan through hard money because they require less skin, that budget will then also, I'm coming back to the bankroll, only each and every person is going to know what their bankroll is to float their accounts receivable. So the loan, the bankroll, and the draw schedule, and this is very important, it's not flipping. You have to be budgeted in this business, unless you're just filthy freaking loaded, okay? And there's not many of us that are just gonna, even if we have tons of money sitting somewhere, we're not just gonna allocate that, or we can't just go pull it from one account and the other, and then our CPAs get pissed at us. The point is, everything has to be budgeted, regardless of how rich or wealthy or whatever you are. Budget it. Your draw schedule could make or break you, but your draw schedule, if not done correctly, if you don't know when money's coming in, you short pay some of your guys. Well, then if your concrete guys are friends with your framing guys, they might tell them, screw those guys, they didn't pay me on time, and then those guys are going to slow roll you. Maybe they'll take your job, maybe they won't. Maybe now all of a sudden they want a down payment to show up, which does happen. Now, I advise against it, but there's also been times, as much as I'm against it, I know we've done it. And my staff, our construction manager, John, is on your staff, he's an integral part of our team. He refuses to tell me shit like that because I'll lose it. But he does what he has to do to get the projects done. So all that, it's very simple in the sense it's just your upfront terms and your costs, your draws, because it's really all there is to a loan. But it's mapping it all out, knowing when you're going to ask for what money, tying that in with your building schedule calendar, knowing when you're going to need certain money, what do all these things cost, what does your budget look like for the entire 4 to 8 week, 3-month project. And then from there you can decide what all makes the best sense. Kind of got off topic with your question, but this is a very planned attack.
So out of the entire conversation today, for me, the biggest takeaways is the most important thing is the draw schedule. But then you just brought up about how the calendar, you need to make sure the calendar and the draw schedule are aligned.
Point in case.
Right.
One of the last loans we had with somewhere in between a hard money and a private lender, we were trying out a new guy. We differed on our opinion of the completion of a particular trade without going down that bunny hole. We were expecting to get our draw because this trade to us was complete. To him, it was not complete. I could get into the intricacies of whatever that word is of the difference between framing and decking and dry-in, or enclosing a property, whether that means the doors and windows are in, or whether all those different things that come into someone else's opinion. So this kind of comes back to your term sheet and your draw schedule, but certain people may have different opinions of when something's due. If you can't float through certain hurdles, that particular, difference of opinion cost us about 10 days. Didn't break us, but it did hurt the budget. So, however, I was trying to answer your question there. It all ties it together with the calendar and going back to the relationships point. Certain lenders you might be able to have a conversation with and say, well, instead of not giving me anything, give me half, and then I'll do this before I get the next draw. So it all commingles together: relationships, conversations, rates, points, draw schedules, accounts receivable, bankrolling your own project to some degree, yada yada. It's all commingled.
Right. Matt Smith actually brings up a good point. What about IRAs for new builds? Because I've seen you at the Quest events before, looking for money, looking for people. How maybe we need to get a Quest somebody up here, somebody from Quest up here. What is that process? Is it the same thing? It's just a different avenue?
Similar since it's private money. What's your take?
Yeah, I have PMLs that do that, and their money is an IRA. We just connect them with someone like Quest or another service of that type, and then they connect with them. They do all the documentation. I don't get involved in that documentation. That's between the IRA holder and the person, and then from there, we just transfer it into the escrow account that everything's happening.
Okay.
So like we use
Tommy,
Quest.
So what's that?
I said we use Quest. Okay, I have accounts with them.
Let's walk down that scenario.
So I've got a couple of IRA lenders, but so I'm gonna go on a tangent while I explain this story. Yes, we've got a couple of guys that lend from their IRA. They have very large IRAs. It's very easy. We send our whole builder packet to the custodian, and we just don't get in their way.
What's the custodian?
Right.
That's Quest.
That's
They're the custodian. They're the ones that are responsible for making sure this person's money.
The in-between guy.
Yeah.
Right.
We send them our whole building packet, let them sort it out. They tell us what they need back. And no matter, we've used the same guy and the same account, sometimes they have different questions. I just let them sort it out, ask me what they need, I give them what they need, and I don't really argue. Now, I also give perks to other people who might otherwise have accounts, credit lines, cash, or whatever. Maybe their IRA only has 50 grand. That doesn't do me crap for a new deal. But what I have learned is that if somebody makes sense to us as a really good business partner or lender or otherwise, then I'll tell them, I'll give your IRA at 50 grand the first lien. You're floating the rest from your whatever the hell else, unsecured or in second lien. But what I'll do is I'll allow that 50 grand to make the entire profit you would have made on the loan over here. So now my perk to get more lenders coming to us is to help them grow their IRAs that way. That's the strategy that not many people think about when they go to these events. They're like, well, sorry, you don't have enough. And that was me until I realized if I choose to eat all the paperwork, time, and BS, now I can't accommodate somebody that doesn't have the ability to help me with the rest of the project. Otherwise, we're getting 5 different IRAs, and those are all lining up, which you can actually do. The custodian can set that up too. If you've got 3 different people, each with 50, and you only need 150 to do your deal, yeah, you can set them all up as equal partners in a deal. But anyways, what I'm doing with a couple of guys in order to get their business on a few different types of deals that I don't do with my current business partner will help them grow their IRA because it's their Roth, so it grows tax free.
Let's walk through that, because I've never heard that before. Like, Tommy's got $50K in his IRA. You need 120, but guess what? Tommy also has $70,000 in his bank account. So you're like, hey, let's take 50 from your IRA, let's take 70 from your piggy bank. All together, that's 120. And when we come back for profits, here's 70 back to
I'll set the terms up to where his 50 is making all the profit, not necessarily in interest rates, but in a predetermined.
Let's just easy math. There's 10 grand of profits.
So he's loaning me 50 in exchange for 10 back.
Right,
Done.
and then the
70 makes nothing.
And the 70 goes back to his piggy bank.
Yeah. So he might roll that into a second lien, or he might give me an unsecured loan against, personal guarantee, whatever. That's based on relationships, though.
Right.
But his 50 grand still getting the first lien. So who gives a shit what the rest is all about? He's got his first lien.
Right.
Yeah, I like that, because they're not only growing their IRA, but they're also saving tax on taxes.
Most flippers don't have this ability. I'm not going to say most. A lot of them don't have the time, the ability, or the want to go through this much paperwork and hassle. But there's a time where we're ready to meet more people.
It's more than that. You're actually really caring about your
I'm
private,
helping them now. I'm giving something more than other people.
You're giving them value. You're helping the PML grow their nest, which a lot of, that's probably a different subject, but private money lending, we have to have that mindset.
I think Tyler has helped us out by the 422 on Propelio is the exact topic. Tyler, drop the link for that show in the comments on both YouTube and on Facebook. That way people can just easy button click it. But on that note, like, maybe it's just because I haven't watched that show. Maybe I'm a bad person. But like, if I say I have $1,000 in my IRA, but I have $99,000 in my bank account,
or a line of credit,
or
maybe
whatever,
you can go get a line of credit.
But the point I'm going to make though is maybe I'm in a position where I don't have the capability of putting all my money in an IRA because I need to float my business, but maybe I don't need the profits to float my business. So
I tell you, you're no different than the extremely wealthy person with $1 million in a bank account and 100 grand in his IRA, because you're still capped at putting a certain amount in every year. And I'm not giving advice I shouldn't, but that's just the simple legal, married, unmarried, single, who cares? There's a limit, no matter how you slice it up, of how much you can tuck away into all your different IRAs.
Right.
So you can only grow them by the amount you're allowed to put in each year or through the profits they make. So you go talk to Mr. Joe Blow Wealthy with 2 or 3 million sitting in the bank doing nothing. Yeah, oh my God, he's the greatest private lender. I'll give you 10%, I'll give you 12%. Maybe he's making 20% on that money somewhere else. Maybe he's making that through cocaine deals, who knows? But they're not going to tuck that profit back into his IRA for him. So I come in and say, I'll give you 10%, 12% on that money over there, whatever you want, or I can take all your profits and help you grow that tax free. What makes more sense to you?
Right.
And that now gives me a leg up over everybody else pitching the same crap at all the IRA events.
So if you're watching this, Tyler, make a mental note of the timestamp. And what we'll do is we'll drop a link right here for that Quest show that talks about all this.
So I don't want to go off on a tangent there. But
I know that was a little bit of a tangent.
It's all about getting funded, though. Getting creative.
It's relevant to what we're talking about. Get creative is that's like, I don't want to tell everybody out there, but pretty much every Propelio TV should be, just get creative.
I'm sorry, going down this path I'm talking about, unless you know what you're doing or have a good relationship with a custodian, don't pitch it too much. Right. Or pitch the very simply, hey, look, you have money and I want to help you, so I'll give you 50% of the profit. It comes back to that team up thing. If you don't have something, but they have something you need, which is their money, and if they've got the ability to float a lot of your deals, give them everything you can, because now you can go do a lot of deals with them.
Yep.
Chris, he said he does things a little bit differently. What they do is they use their own cash to buy the land, and they get the shell done, the concrete, the framing, the rough, I don't know. Then they'll refinance at 65% LTV. This gets their cash back quicker.
We've done that.
Right.
So
Because
let's
that
walk
trick.
through
at
that.
that point,
for the layman.
it's a flip to a lot of.
Right.
It all comes down to your budget and your time. How quickly can he do that versus how quickly can the new guy do it?
Right.
Does the new guy know what banks are going to do that exact loan? They need to set all this up in the beginning. Take their notes, find out exit strategies, right? Maybe they're running out of cushion, but maybe they've got 3/4 of a house or a whole house that won't sell, yada, yada. I'm going to say that's not only an exit strategy, that's also a potential budgeting and entry strategy. Do the math on all these. Map them all out if you're new to this game and figure out which path makes sense. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you didn't. No.
It goes back to what we were talking about the other day about, it might have been the first or second episode, about the biggest difference between what you guys are doing and maybe a flipper or wholesaler is prices are fixed. It's just math versus flipping. It's very flexible and it's very wavy. But over here, like even on this process, you can you just determine the math points. You could determine it's set in stone.
If you're running long, for instance, and you've got a loan, I'm just making crap up. Maybe you get to the 4th month mark and you're not on track. Maybe refinancing to a bank or whoever he uses at a lower interest rate to get that. Maybe that makes sense at a certain point in the loan. Maybe everything's working great, but you're just going long. That's going to take 1 week to get done. Refinance that shit.
Yeah, you
just
could be
know
at
where you're at. It's
80, 85% or 90%. You can go ahead and refinance, get your money out, cash out. Again,
if the cost of refinancing makes sense.
Exactly. Again, it goes back to the relationship with whoever that local bank is, right? You can do that with local bank. You can get into another another loan that's less interest rate. You're paying less monthly on it. You go ahead and finish it out, then you sell it, okay, and then you recoup it all, right?
So we're getting towards the end. What are
already?
Already, it's gone.
It's already been an hour. What are some final thoughts on this topic other than draw schedule and math?
For me, it's homework. Every time we get to the end of these first few episodes, before we actually start framing and pouring concrete, it's going to be homework, because unlike a flip where you say, I'm buying it at this price, here's this, and here's my rehab budget in the middle, and we're all going to change tile colors and change paint as we go, blah, blah, blah. This is just really systematic. Have all your crap mapped out. Staple it to the wall at home like one of those funny guys in the movies, you know, that you're connecting all the dots to find the murder. Have it all mapped out so you know where your exit points are, and know which deal makes the most sense. Or maybe one of the deals that's kind of in the middle, expensive, but they're going to give you the most help, like a hard money lender that's really good or a money partner that's done it before. Know everything about your deal.
Jesse?
So, yeah, I'll give you some homework. Go talk to at least 3 hard money lenders and find
There's 2 of them right in here.
some that will lend to new construction. And then also, what else?
Talk to banks too.
Local banks. 3 local banks in your area. Go talk to them and see what you can find out. That's your homework.
There you go. Also, on top of that, I'm glad you said that, because that reminded me. What we've started doing lately in these episodes and all the shows is Tyler, he gets all the notes of all the shows. And on our Rewind show on Fridays at 5 o'clock Central, we just recap all the shows very quickly. But if you go to propelio.com/rewind, there's an email capture. Drop your email there, and we'll send you the notes on all the shows. So, like, Tyler has been watching this show for the past hour. He's making and he boils it down into, something that you could read for like in 30 seconds.
That's
so
cool.
if you go to propelio.com/rewind, you go there and drop your email. We'll send you out the notes. Also,
well, I was pointing out there's 2 lenders in your comments.
We know. So you've got lender Black Label Capital, and you got Kelly with Easy Street Capital. Those are 2 lenders. So if you're looking for part of the homework, but also in the description of the YouTube channel, not now but shortly later, we'll drop a quiz of this show. It's nothing too advanced. It's not even a clicking thing. It's just read it and answer it. Read it and answer it, and then we'll have a link there that you can go to our Facebook group to see the answers. Just to see, just trying to create creative ways to provide value and help people out. So again, you've got propelio.com/rewind. You get all the notes, and then you've got a quiz in the description section of this video on YouTube. If you don't get a prize, it's nothing there other than just for information basis. Chris, if somebody wanted to do business with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Same as before. Pretty much just Facebook or call the office for right now. I promise I'll get on the Insta Google. I'm just not there yet.
And what's the office number?
Yeah, look it up on the internet. I don't know.
Clearly, Chris is just here for fun. He doesn't care about business. It's all good.
I really don't know. The
I
office
love it
number.
though. I love it. He's like that again goes to show we're not. There's nothing to sell. Jesse, what do you got?
Hey guys, if you need any help with anything, just reach out, PM me, or Yesenia at bluecoastalhomes.com. Always here to help. And keep watching us. We hope that you're enjoying our content and our steps to new construction.
info@fastinvestments.com. That's the best email.
You already lost it. Can we bleep that out? Let's edit that out. Oh, I saw that. I got the bird. I don't know if it was on camera, but I got it. As far as Propelio.com, if you're watching this content, can you go over to Jesse's frame real quick? Boom, right there. One of these days. If you're looking at this, this is our Instagram account. We've got our YouTube account. We got our Facebook account. If you don't follow us on YouTube or Facebook or the Insta Googles, give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. And then if you are watching this, drop a comment in the comment section and give us a like. That all tells the internet that this is good content and it's worthwhile. It really, truly helps us out. Also, Propelio.com. If you need comps, you need leads, you need websites, go to Propelio.com. If you're local to DFW, go to there. Boom, office number 972-895-FAST.
I should know
You don't get the plug. I'll plug you because you clearly can't do it. And this show is off the rails. May 14th, 2019, we've got our event here in DFW. People flying from all over the country to go to it. It really is cool. We're actually talking about raising capital in this, on that event. We have Troy Fullwood out of Phoenix. You got Corey Peterson out of Phoenix. And on the panel, we're going to have Eddie Speed, Will Crozier, Troy, and Corey.
Where's this at?
It's in the Grapevine.
I'll show up.
Corey.
You should.
Love you, Corey Peterson. Can't wait to see you.
There.
What?
Shout out. That's the most excitement I've ever seen you have.
Shit.
We appreciate
That's
you
'cause
guys
don't
watching
know
a
me.
lot.
There
Thank
we
you.
go. We're just gonna milk how much time people will stay on. Anyway, appreciate it. Looking forward to going. Also, if you wanted a wristband, shoot me an email, ryan@propelio.com, and just drop me your email, mailing address, and we'll send it to you right. Anyway, let's get out of here. Tommy, save us.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashflow.com, and Lifeonaire.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan with Propelio. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Turn on those notifications and stick around for more. We have tons of content like this all over our channel. So if you want to learn more about real estate investing, stick around, watch Propelio TV, and we'll see you later.